Hey guys, today I will be making my prediction for the 2020 presidential election between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden in the 2020 election. So I'm going to be filling in the solid states for both candidates first, starting off with the president's solid states. In solid states are states that I think are going to go to either candidate by over 15%, likely is between 7 and 15%, lean is between 2 and 15%, and then tilt is between 0 and 2%. So first, for President Trump's solid states, this is much worse than the amount of solid states that he carried in 2016, as there are many states that he carried by over 15% that are not going to be as solid for him this time around. So the remaining solid states for President Trump in 2020 are the states of Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Nebraska's 1st and 3rd district vote, the state of Oklahoma, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Mike Pence's home state of Indiana, giving President Trump 80 electoral votes from his solid states. In 2016, he was able to carry Montana, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi by solid margins, and the states of Alaska and South Carolina by over 14%. So this is definitely a huge step down for President Trump compared to 2016, but for Joe Biden, he is not going to underperform Clinton's numbers 4 years ago. The West Coast is all solid for Joe Biden. Oregon was pretty close here 4 years ago. However, now I think Joe Biden has definitely got this in the bag as a solid state, as well as the state of Hawaii and the state of Illinois, 20 electoral votes. So Joe Biden already has more electoral votes from the solid states as of now than Donald Trump. The states of New York and most of the West Coast or Northeast are going to be solid for Joe Biden. Maine's 1st district is going to be solid, as well as Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, the state of New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and the District of Columbia, giving Joe Biden 183 electoral votes from his safe states compared to Donald Trump with just 80 electoral votes. So Joe Biden automatically here already starts off with a 103 electoral vote advantage over the current president. Next, I'm going to be filling in some of the likely states for both candidates. These are the states that I think are going to be between 7 to 15% in favor of the candidate that I give it to. And these are states that I think are almost definitely going to go to the respective candidates, but states that I do not think that they're going to win by solid margins. So for President Trump, we have the states of Montana, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, and South Carolina, all states that I mentioned earlier. And the state of Alaska, I'm actually going to categorize right now, just because that I think this state is almost definitely going to go to the president. I do not see it going to him with a likely margin as of right now. I do think that the state of Alaska is going to be a lean state on this map in favor of the president. I do think that he's going to do pretty well here, but I do not think that at the end of the day, it is going to be a likely margin for the president. For the president as well, these Nebraska at large vote, I think is going to be likely for him as well. So another 2 electoral votes, giving President Trump 125 electoral votes. It's the 125 electoral votes that you typically see for the president. Now, for Joe Biden, he only has 183 electoral votes, and this number is going to definitely expand after these new states. First, the states of Colorado and New Mexico, I think, are going to be likely states for Joe Biden, as well as the state of New Hampshire, the state of Virginia, the Maine at-large vote, and the state of Minnesota. So this gives Joe Biden 226 electoral votes, and it's basically every state that Hillary Clinton carried 4 years ago, with the exclusion of the state of Nevada, which would give Joe Biden 232 electoral votes. However, right now, I do not think that Nevada is going to be a likely state for the vice president. So out of these states, why I categorize these as likely states? Colorado, New Mexico, states that went to Clinton with lean margins 4 years ago, I think are definitely going to perform better for Joe Biden. The state of Minnesota, state that Clinton won by 1.5%, pretty abysmal showing for her here 4 years ago in the Midwest. She did very badly here, very poorly in the Rust Belt, and especially the Blue Wall, the states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. However, Joe Biden is expected to rebuild that wall for the Democratic Party and carry the state of Minnesota with a likely margin. He's polling here by almost 9% ahead of the current president right now. So all of those theories about Donald Trump being able to flip the state have definitely been destroyed. And the state of Virginia, this is a state that Clinton, people weren't even sure if she was going to carry this state 4 years ago, just because the state was very close on election night. It did turn out a little bit better for her at the end, but definitely not a good showing for her 4 years ago. This is her vice presidential nominee Tim Kaine's home state. His home state is the state of Virginia, and Clinton was barely able to win this state. McClain was barely able to bring her to a victory here. A state that the Republican Party has not had a single victory here statewide in over a decade. The state of New Hampshire, another very close race from 2016. This is a state that Clinton carried by just 0.4%. This state was closer than both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, as well as even Florida. So the state of New Hampshire was definitely very, very close and definitely decided by just a few thousand votes here in 2016. But now Joe Biden looks like he's going to do much better. He's going to win with a likely margin in this state, according to my prediction. So this gives Joe Biden a 101 electoral vote lead over President Trump, and President Trump has already been giving the state of Alaska, so really he only has 122 electoral votes from his solid and likely states, but we're just going to give him Alaska because I do not think that this state is competitive. So these states right here, these are the states that I consider to be competitive with. Maybe you could add Minnesota here, but right now I do think that Minnesota is pretty solid for the former vice president. So these other states, these are states that I think are going to be pretty solid for Joe Biden. And not for Joe Biden, but I think are going to be battleground states and states that both candidates will be able to win. Now, these states, all of them were won by President Trump with the exception of the state of Nevada. 4 years ago, President Trump was able to win every single great state here on this map except Nevada. So he definitely had a very good showing 4 years ago. However, this time we're going to see how it plays out for the president. So first, I'm going to fill in the lean states for Donald Trump. These are the states of Iowa and Texas. I think that these two states are going to be lean states for the president just because these states both voted to the right by a pretty large amount in 2016. Iowa moved from being a Democratic state in 2012 to being a Republican state by over 9 points in 2016. Texas actually was a huge step down. Trump only won the state by 8%, while Romney 4 years ago in 2012, or compared to 2012, 4 years ago, Romney was able to win this state. Romney, the 2012 Republican candidate, won this state by 16%. So Trump basically cut his margin in half over Clinton, and so this is definitely a sign that the state of Texas is moving more and more to the left, which is a trend basically in the entire Sun Belt here in the South. But the state of Texas is still going to be a lean state on this map. A couple of months ago, we could have said that Joe Biden had a chance of winning, but Donald Trump seems to have solidified his lead here. He's still leading by less than 2%, but I think that on election night, he's definitely going to outperform. And also, the Republicans are definitely making ploys to, cheat, to win this state, because in this state, you cannot request a ballot because you do not want to get COVID-19, a disease that's basically killed over 200,000 Americans. Apparently, it's not a good enough excuse for you to get a mail-in ballot or an absentee ballot. You have to vote in person, or you have to have another excuse, here in the state of Texas. And, this is definitely, there's no reason for this. And mail-in voting has been proven not to be, it's been proving not to lead to voter fraud. So, there's really no reason for them as to do this except for the fact that they want to hold on to the state of Texas. If Joe Biden wins Texas, if he wins Nevada, another Clinton state from 2016, and Texas, Trump is done for. Biden's already at 270 electoral votes, and I think that if he wins Texas, he'll win every other great state on this map. So that is just how important Texas is for the GOP. They're struggling to survive right now because they might lose their largest possession. This is basically the Republican Party's California, except it is still a smaller state. So they are basically, they're in big trouble here if Joe Biden wins Texas or even comes within 1%. And I think that in 2024, Texas is definitely going to be a very contentious race here. And I think it's going to be one of the closest states in the entire election. It might just turn into a state like Florida, as Texas is moving more and more to the left as each election cycle goes on. So this gives Donald Trump 169 electoral votes and Joe Biden's 226. So I'm going to fill in his likely or lean states right now. First, the state of Nevada, this gives him 232 electoral votes, the same as Clinton in 2016, and these are the states that Biden is going to flip with a lean margin. These states of Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and as well as the 2nd District of Nebraska. So these 5 states and the 2nd District of Nebraska are going to be flips for Joe Biden. not all flips. Nevada is not a flip, but these other 4 states are going to be flips for Joe Biden. Looking at this map here, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. 3 states that went to President Trump by less than 1%, I do think are going to be lean states on this map for Joe Biden. I think Michigan is definitely going to be the strongest out of the 3, followed by Wisconsin and then Pennsylvania. But at the end of the day, it does not matter. Michigan was a likely state on my last electoral map prediction, but I think that Michigan is getting pretty close. I'm not pretty close, but it's getting pretty close to becoming a lean state on the polling average, and I do still think that President Trump is going to outperform the polling averages in the state of Michigan, so I'm going to give Michigan as only a lean state to Joe Biden. So this does lead to Joe Biden rebuilding the blue wall, that President Trump was able to break through in 2016, which really helped him win the election. If he did not win these 3 states, he would not have won the election. But with these 3 states and the state of Arizona, Joe Biden has crossed 270 electoral votes. So yes, he would win the 2020 presidential election, and I'm still pretty confident that he is going to. State of Arizona, this is a state that went to President Trump by 3.6%, I believe, in 2016, and Joe Biden is basically leading in the polls here by the same margin. So that is an over 7% swing in favor of the Democratic Party compared to 2016 in Arizona. And what's happening in Arizona is very similar to what's happening in Texas. The state used to be a Republican stronghold. This state has not gone to a Republican or a Democrat not Republican, but a Democrat in 2 decades. The last time that a Democrat won this state was in 1996, with Bill Clinton carrying this state over Bob Dole, but Texas is a state that has not gone to the Democrats in 4 decades. So these 2 states are definitely moving to the left, and I could definitely see a Democrat carrying these 2 states in the future. Arizona, I think Joe Biden is going to do this now, but I think that Arizona is going to move even more and more to the left as time goes on. So this gives Joe Biden 290 electoral votes. He has crossed 270 by over 20 electoral votes already. So it is these states that are going to decide the margin of victory that Joe Biden is going to have. These are the tilt states. We have the 2nd District of Maine, the state of Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. These states, I think, are going to be the closest in the entire election. For President Trump, I do think that the states of Ohio, North Carolina, and Georgia are going to be tilt states for the president, and I'm going to explain why right now. So Ohio, I think that although Biden might be leading here in the polling average by 1%, it's still going to go to President Trump. He won the state by 8%, and yes, Barack Obama did carry the state in both 2008 and 2012 with Joe Biden as his vice presidential nominee, but the state of Ohio voted 12 points to the right of the national average in 2016, and like I said yesterday, Ohio being a bellwether state does not matter. Okay, it might have still been a bellwether in 2016, but it voted 12 points, or not 12, I think 10 points. I don't know why I said 12, but it voted 8 points in favor of the president, and the national average was 2 points in favor of Clinton. So it voted over 10 points to the right of the national average. So the voters in Ohio are no longer a reflection of the voters nationwide, which is why that although it did go to Trump and Trump did win the election, it was still, it does not represent the majority of Americans anymore. The state of Ohio, of course, has been voted with the eventual winner in every single election in the past 60 years since 1964, I believe. So this would be a pretty sad streak for them to lose. But at the end of the day, it does not matter. It's not like Ohio voters are brainwashing people and telling them how to vote. So whether the state of Ohio goes to Trump or Biden really does not matter and really does not affect who's going to win. It's based on the electoral vote count, not just whichever state or whichever candidate Ohio votes for. State of North Carolina. I have given this to Joe Biden in every single one of my election predictions, and I do hope that I'll be able to put this back in, because the only reason why I'm putting North Carolina into the Trump column is because of the voter suppression that I think is almost definitely 100% is going to occur. Now, whether this is illegal or not is still up for debate, but this is Trump is going to purposely try to get African American voters not to vote here. And as we've seen already, there is a disproportionate amount of African Americans sent ballots that are being sent back than ballots from white people. And in 2016, it was just recently revealed, I think just a couple days ago in a news article, that President Trump purposely, his main campaign motive was to get hundreds of thousands of African American voters not to turn out for Hillary Clinton by profiling them and giving them specific ads on, social media to get them not to vote, to deter them. I think they were called deterrent or something like that, but they were trying to deter many voters away from voting, and this was basically all just African Americans. They did this a lot in the state of Georgia and the second most in the state of North Carolina, and they're definitely going to do it again. There's no doubt about that. They're going to do anything that they can to hold on to these states that Trump is doing very horribly in compared to 2016. And so yeah, North Carolina I am going to unfortunately put into the Trump column, just because I think that he is going to employ voter suppression tactics here, and again, whether this is illegal or not is still up for debate. And lastly, the state of Georgia, really not too much of a surprise here. Biden might have tied in 3 polls with the president just a couple days ago, but Georgia, at the end of the day, the Democrats do seem to hit a ceiling here. Stacey Abrams was not able to break through that, and she was very popular in this state. She was not able to break through the 48% mark in 2018 in her Senate race, and that seems to be the peak for Democrats in the state of Georgia. In the future, I think that the Democrats definitely do have a great future in this state in 2024, 2028, and especially 2032. I think that this state is definitely ready to flip, but as of right now, I do think that the state of Georgia has not shifted enough to the left for Joe Biden to claim a victory here. And then, of course, these last 2 states, or I guess district and state. First, the 2nd district of Maine, I'm going to project as going to Joe Biden with a tilt margin. Joe Biden, it has been leading in basically every single poll out of the state, albeit by a very small margin. And then Florida, I am going to give to Joe Biden. I do think that in the state of Florida, he might have a little bit of a shortcoming in terms of Latino votes and Latino support within the Cuban American voters here in Florida. But I do think that at the end of the day, he's going to carry the state of Florida. He has been leading here this entire election cycle. New polls do show him doing a little better out of the state. So I'm going to give Joe Biden the state of Florida as a tilt state. This gives Joe Biden 320 electoral votes and President Donald Trump 218 electoral votes, making Joe Biden the 46th president of the United States, and Donald Trump would lose his re-election. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like down below if you did, as well as please consider subscribing to my channel. It really helps me out and really support it. And I really appreciate it. And leave your thoughts in the comments below, along with any video suggestions for videos you'd like to see from me in the future. And of course, we do have the first presidential debate of the 2020 election cycle tonight, so make sure you tune in for that if you're undecided, or I think it's just honestly good for everyone to watch, just so you know a little bit more about each of the candidates. And with historically low expectations for both candidates, I do think that this debate is going to be quite interesting, so make sure you don't miss that. And so yeah, I will see all of you guys in the next video.